Thank you very much. We'll start with a little, just a short clip of a video. If you'll focus, this is a video from a drone that was taken in the mountains to the south of here. If you've looked out the windows, you notice there's mountains to the north, there's mountains to the south, and there's mountains to the east. Now just watch as this drone goes over this ridge here. Welcome to San Jose. This is just gives you an idea of the size of San Jose, Costa Rica. Now this you're looking at a big swath of the valley here, but that's good enough. We'll just go to the photographs from here. There we go. So I'm here to talk to you about downtown San Jose, not San Jose, downtown San Jose. And now some of you are new here. Have you been in what you think is downtown? Some of you aren't sure about what is downtown and what is not. Anybody been downtown?
We've been right there with that sports stadium.
Okay, that's the stadium, right? That's Savannah Park. That's west of downtown. And actually where we are, we're kind of midway between downtown and Savannah Park. By the way, that park used to be the international airport before the days of the jets. I mean, when they just had propellers. But now it's just a city park. And it's compared to Central Park in New York. It's almost as big as Central Park. So if you've been in downtown, you would be familiar with, say, something like the National Theater or the main cathedral. And I'm just going to click some pictures here as we talk. And what happened? Which one? Oh goodness, there we go. Good. Okay. So I'm just going to scroll through some pictures here of downtown. But when we talk about downtown San Jose, we're talking about some of the highlights are the National Theater, the main cathedral, and there's a big section of a street that has been turned into a pedestrian walkway, and it's called Avenida Central or Central Avenue, and that has become the retail hub of the city. There's just a few more pictures here we'll get through. There we go. So this is a shot of the National Theater, by the way. But when you think about that video, that little clip of the video that we just saw, you can see that the valley, which includes San Jose, and it includes the adjacent cities, and it includes the suburbs. The whole valley is about 2 million people. It's just a little bit less than 2 million people. San Jose itself is about 500,000 people. And but when we're talking about downtown San Jose, we're only talking about 20 blocks east and west and about 15 blocks north and south. So, and the National Theater is considered to be the very center of downtown. So what we're talking about is essentially walking distance. And I know that walking distance gets shorter and shorter as we get older and older, but we're talking about 10 or 15 blocks or so. And downtown San Jose is a very special place. It's what we call the heart and soul of San Jose. And in fact, it's the heart and soul of the entire country. We know that San Jose is the capital of Costa Rica, but it's so much more than that. It's more than just the political capital. It's also the country's economic center, its retail center, it's the center of its history and its art and culture, and it's where tons of things have happened in Costa Rican history that have made Costa Rica a unique place. It's unlike any other country in the world, and I'm sure you're you're figuring that out as you're learning about Costa Rica. But what you'll find in downtown are some nice hotels, not the best ones, but some very nice ones. The best, the big five-star mega resorts are on the beach, you know, but in downtown there's some nice hotels. There are some excellent restaurants. The country's most important and best museums are in downtown San Jose, including one called the Jade Museum. Have you heard of that? Yeah, it's jade, like jade jewelry. The jade jewelry is the finest museum in Central America, and it's considered one of the best museums in all of Latin America. I wrote a story about it for the English language magazine here, and in doing research about it, I found an archaeologist and anthropologist who said that the Jade Museum in downtown San Jose is the finest museum between Mexico City and Peru. I mean, it's one of the best in the world. So I don't know about you guys, but I get museumed out after a while. You know, I'm good for a couple hours in a museum, and that's just about it. So if you have time and energy for one museum, that's the one that you want to see, the Jade Museum. So, in addition, the National Theater, the main cathedral. There's the world-class hospital, which the lady earlier today spoke about, called Clinica Biblica. And it has centers for art and music. And as I mentioned, that super busy pedestrian walkway called Avenida Central. Avenida Central is sometimes called the Times Square of Costa Rica. And it's 12 blocks of, it was a street, and 12 blocks of it have been turned into a pedestrian walkway. And it's become the retail hub of the country. On a good payday, like the end of the month payday or something like that, you will find there's hundreds of thousands of people on that stretch of street. And keep in mind, there's 5 million people in Costa Rica, so a big percentage of them will be on that street. So now, there's a couple more shots. That's the cathedral, by the way. There's there's Avenida Central, the walking street. Oh, there's always guys playing for tips. So, and this is one of my favorite pictures. McDonald's, and one door down is Starbucks. So you'll never get homesick. Okay, so I mentioned the National Theater. I have time to talk about just a couple of things. I just want to whet your appetite a little bit because we don't have time to talk about all of downtown. So let's first talk about the National Theater. This is an Italian-style symphony hall. It's a small symphony hall that was built in the 1890s. And there's a whole story about why it was built and how it was built. I won't go into a lot of details. I'll just say that San Jose, and well, I should say all of Costa Rica, was an economic backwater up until all through most of its history. And the reason is because there's not much here. There's no big gold mines here. There weren't any Indian tribes to rob here. Big ones like the Incas and the Aztecs and so on. There's no big stretches of flat land, so they don't have big plantations like they do in the Caribbean islands. Here, it's very much like where I grew up in northern Pennsylvania. It's a lot of mountains with small farms, and that's the same here. A lot of mountains with small farms, but it also meant that nobody was making any money, and there wasn't a whole lot of economic reason for people to come to Costa Rica. Well, in the last half of the 1800s, there was an economic miracle that took place, and I know when you guys got up this morning, you were going, "Gee, I hope he talks about economic history." You know, my degree was in economics, and I like history, so this works for me. But anyway, there was an economic miracle that took place in the 1890s, and it was that the world discovered Costa Rican coffee. I said the 1890s, I mean the last half of the 1800s. At first, it was Europeans, and then it was later the Americans and the Canadians started buying Costa Rican coffee. And all of a sudden, these farms out in the middle of nowhere that were sitting on the slopes of these volcanic mountainsides and in these fertile valleys, all of a sudden they had a cash crop and they were making money. So along with that came a lot of political pressure to have some culture in downtown, because downtown San Jose was not much more than a whole bunch of corrugated shacks with tin roofs. And so now there was a lot of pressure to build a nice theater. This is the lobby. When you walk into the lobby of the theater, you're allowed to go in the lobby for free, and you're allowed. There's a coffee shop right off to the left of it. In fact, I think I've got that here. There's the coffee shop. You can go in there and just enjoy it. It's like you've walked into a European coffee shop, like you were in Vienna or someplace, and it's particularly fun because right there in downtown, it's noisy. There's always buses going by. There's always sirens going by. There's always the great noise of Costa Rica is the motorcycle without muffler. They're all going by, and you walk in here and it's just peaceful and quiet, and it's a nice place to just sit and relax, have a good cup of coffee, and you can enjoy a good book or whatever. It's just a lot of fun. Now, if you want to go past the lobby or the coffee shop, you do have to pay for a tour. But when you get inside, you'll see that it's a beautiful auditorium. By the way, it's only 900 seats, 950, I think, 950 seats. So wherever you sit, you're close to the performance. The best way to see the theater is to see a performance. I was there a while back, and I saw the Costa Rican Symphony Orchestra, and they did two. I was just telling these people in the back here. They did two symphonies. One was a Haydn symphony with just strings, beautiful. And then, oh, by the way, they told everybody you couldn't take pictures, and you can see everybody's got their cell phone out taking pictures. But anyway, then they brought out the entire orchestra with the 40-voice chorus and 4 soloists, and they did Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. It was just stunning, absolutely stunning. So now, besides the National Symphony Orchestra, there's also all kinds of other performers. This is Joshua Bell. Anybody, you know who Joshua Bell is, folks, but the rest of you, he's the leading violin soloist in the world today, and he was here when he played here. The tickets were $250 a seat, and they sold out. And that's another thing that people should understand. Costa Rica is not a third world country anymore. There's a growing middle class and upper middle class because of all the economic opportunity that is here and is not in the neighboring countries. And we could talk about why that is. But in any case, at $250 a seat, he packed the house, and there were people who couldn't get in. So, but in addition to that, there's all kinds of other things that go on there. They had a kabuki theater group that was here a while back. Sometimes at Christmas time they'll have the Nutcracker Suite or another Christmas type of event. And they often have speakers, including this guy. President Kennedy visited Costa Rica in 1963, and he stayed at the hotel right across the plaza called the Grand Hotel, and he literally walked through the crowd, shaking hands as he went. And today, there's no way an American president would be allowed to walk through a crowd like that. But he walked into the theater and he spoke to spoke to hundreds of people who were there from all over Latin America to hear him speak. So anyway, that's just one of the things that you can see in downtown San Jose. Now, let's talk about something really important: food. Okay, every Saturday morning, about 8 or 10 blocks to the south of us here, near the Tracopa bus station, and you probably don't know where that is, but if you lived here, you would. There is a farmer's market that gets set up every Saturday morning from about 6 a.m. and it goes on till about 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And basically what it is all the farmers from 2 hours away or so come in with their pickup trucks and they sell fruits and vegetables. And you will see an amazing variety of, you're dealing right with the farmer vendors here, which is pretty cool. But you'll see an amazing variety of produce, fruits and vegetables, and all kinds of other things. I've got some notes here, so let me read some of this. You'll find hundreds of stalls with fruits, vegetables, meats, cheeses, fresh eggs, fresh fish, herbs, honey, coffee, freshly cut flowers, baked goods, freshly squeezed juices, and more fruits and vegetables. I mean, it's just amazing. And part of the reason for this is because, as I mentioned before, this is a very mountainous country. So within 2 hours drive of here, you've got all these different microclimates. At sea level, they grow coconuts and bananas. A little bit higher up, then they grow papayas and pineapples and mangoes. And then a little higher up, they grow salad vegetables and broccoli and cauliflower and string beans. Then when you get up into the higher, the mountains above here, then you'll see the cool weather crops like spinach and kale and eggplants and stuff. It's amazing. And and look at these pineapples. They don't pick the pineapples until they're ripe. And the same thing is true with bananas. Most people in the United States have never had a good banana. And the reason is because the bananas in the United States are picked very, very, very green. And then when they're timed so that they turn yellow when they get to the shelves. Well, here, they don't even bother to pick them until they're yellow. And it makes all the difference in the world. And I get these tiny little 2-inch bananas, and they're just, you've had them before? They're just delicious, yeah. These are papayas. They're the size of an American football. And they're just amazing. They're like a kilo or a kilo and a half, like 3 or 4 pounds each, The other things that you can find there are fish. There's several fish vendors at this particular market. Sometimes you'll find, and every week it's different. It's based on what they caught the day or two before, and so sometimes you almost always see snapper, red snapper. Sometimes you'll see yellowtail tuna. You'll see mahi. You'll see grouper. There's one called congrio, which is like a sailfish. There's shark. There's shrimp. And there's even octopus. And so there's all kinds of the bounty from the ocean, and most of it comes from the Pacific side because that's only about 2 hours away. It's really quite good. And Costa Rica is one of the reasons I enjoy living here is because you can get vine-ripened tomatoes all year long here, I mean, I grew up in northern Pennsylvania, and you could get it for 4 or 5 weeks in the late summer, and that would be it. But here you get it all year long. This guy, I particularly like this picture because this guy he has a goat farm outside of San Jose, and he sells goat cheese and goat yogurt and goat milk. And I don't think he was the least bit interested in selling any yogurt because he wanted to just talk to this girl. But in any case, There's all kinds of scenes that go on there. This particular vendor has pigs and cattle, and he butchers them himself, and he has ham hocks and all kinds of sausages that he makes and so on. There's some snapper, red snapper. And you can also have breakfast there, or lunch, or whatever. But there are also places just to sit down and eat as well. So, okay. Now I want to talk to you about just a couple of neighborhoods. There's some really cool neighborhoods in downtown. There's some very neighborhoods that you don't want to go into, but there's some very nice neighborhoods as well. And this one is called Barrio Amon. The word barrio is B-A-R-R-I-O. That means neighborhood or district. And this is Barrio Amon. This was at one time the most prestigious and most fashionable place in all of Costa Rica. And the reason was because, as I mentioned before, a lot of the farmers who lived out in the countryside literally for generations on subsistence farms, after coffee became a profitable product, they suddenly had money, and one of the things they wanted to do is they wanted to have a townhouse. So they had their house on their farm out in the middle of nowhere, and then they wanted to have a townhouse in the capital city. So they built these beautiful homes in this one neighborhood called Barrio Amon. And some of them are still homes. This is still a private home. And let's see. There we go, there we go. There we go. This house was a private home. It's now an office building on the top, and then it's a coffee shop on the bottom. This one is still a private home. And you could just wander around this neighborhood, and you'll find all these beautiful old buildings. This was a private home. It's now called the Hemingway Inn. By the way, it's closed, unfortunately, but it was what they called a coffee baron home. It was a private home. It was. And one of the things that you'll see as you wander around this, because this was at the end of the 1800s and the first half of the 20th century, this was a very prestigious neighborhood, and there was a lot of money here. So a lot of the families who owned these properties, they would put art in the form of hand-painted tiles. And this is an art form that's popular in Portugal and Spain and parts of Italy, and in this neighborhood in Costa Rica. So what happens is the artist puts his image on the ceramic tile, and then they glaze over the ceramic tile so that it can sit out in the weather, and it literally sits out there for decades for people to enjoy. This is another private home. This is not the wall of the home; it's the exterior wall of the property. And on this wall, the owner of this property has all of these different images, and they're all from the book Don Quixote de la Mancha, the classic novel by Miguel Cervantes. Okay, this is an art gallery, and this is the lady is named Aisling French, and her son is Connell, and they own the art gallery. This is a gallery that specializes in art from the indigenous tribes. There are 8 indigenous tribes that have survived here in Costa Rica, and they have art from each of the different tribes. It's a fascinating place to visit, and they know they're walking encyclopedias about indigenous art. It's a very fun place to visit. Now I want you to look at this building. This was never a private home. This was a government building. It was actually built by Andrew Carnegie, the American philanthropist at the beginning of the 20th century, and it's called, believe it or not, the Yellow House, even though it was never a house. It is the Foreign Ministry of Costa Rica, and it's in this neighborhood, in the Barrio Mon neighborhood, and this is where when there's a new diplomat that comes to town, or there's a head of state, or a VIP comes to town, they meet with the president of Costa Rica here at this building. And there's a close-up of it. But I want you to look at this. This is the Yellow House, the foreign ministry. And look at the teal building behind it. That's my apartment. That's where I live. And I'm on the, not on the top floor, but on the floor right below it. So I get to see the comings and goings of the president and all the VIPs from around the world just come here to visit the president of Costa Rica. And back in 2013, President Obama paid an official visit, and he visited with Laura Chinchilla, who was the only and still is the only woman president of Costa Rica. There's another shot of them. By the way, I'm a single guy, and I get asked all the time, what are the women like? I hear the women in Costa Rica are beautiful, you know. And so I send them pictures of Laura Chinchilla. I said, well, this is the president of the country. So you could judge from there, you know. So here she is out on the street dancing with some of the local people. Another thing that would never happen to an American president today. They wouldn't allow an American president out on the street like that. But anyway, okay, so another neighborhood I want to talk about is called 4th Avenue, or Avenida Cuatro. And on 4th Avenue, it parallels Avenida Central. So there's Central Avenue, which is a walking street, and then 4th Avenue is 2 blocks down, and it parallels it. It's also a walking street for about 12 blocks. And it's a bit more down market. It's more local. But what it's famous for are its statues. It has statues several places up and down the street. And this one is a statue of Jesus. It's in the yard of a church. This is on the western end of the walking street. And it's a statue of Jesus, and it's called Cristo del Camino, or Christ of the Highway. And what he's doing is he's blessing the traffic because it's an extremely busy intersection there. And if you've been in Costa Rica enough, you know that, excuse me, but you know that Costa Rican men are the nicest people in the world until they get behind the wheel of a car, and then they're crazy. And anyway, it's true. And so anyway, this intersection is absolutely crazy, and the statue is of Jesus trying to tell everybody to calm down. And I particularly like this photograph because I took it at Christmas time, and there's Santa Claus right behind. And he's waving at Jesus, who is in turn telling the traffic to calm down. So, on the opposite side, the opposite end of Avenue 4 is another church, and every church has a plaza out front. This plaza has park benches, and there's this guy sitting here on a park bench. Anybody know who he is? Anybody? Yeah, exactly. John, did you know that, or did you? Good guess. Very good. There's a close-up of it. There's a statue of John Lennon sitting there on the seat, and this is the single most popular piece of art in all of Costa Rica because everybody wants to sit down and get their picture taken next to John Lennon. So another statue. This one is at the main cathedral, which is right pretty much in the center. Anybody know who this is? It's Pope John Paul II, Papa Juan Pablo II, as they would say. And Pope John Paul he visited here in Costa Rica in 1980, in the 1980s. And he was here during the problems that we were having with all the revolutions that were going on, the Contras and the Contras and the Sandinistas and in Nicaragua, and there was also violence going on in Honduras and El Salvador. Anyway, he came here on a mission of peace, and he said what he called a mass for peace at this cathedral. And there's a news photo that I stole off the internet. So But you can see he was a rock star. You know, when President Obama was here, he was very popular. And when President Kennedy was here, he was very popular. But when Pope John Paul was here, he was a rock star. So now, this is a statue of a little girl. Anybody know who this might be? Look closely at her hands. There's another shot of her. Let's see if I got it. Oh. What happened? Ah. I'm sorry, this is very confusing here. Her hands are tied. There you go. There's another close-up of her. That's Anne Frank as she's being led away by the Nazis. She's looking to heaven, and anyway, a very, very poignant piece of art. This is right outside of the cathedral. It's not part of the cathedral grounds, but it's right outside the cathedral. There we go. Anyway, that's just a small sampling of what you can find in downtown San Jose. I mean, I've just literally just scratched the surface. How much time have I got left here?
You got plenty of pictures?
Just a couple more left here. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, yeah. The thing is, I want to. This is the post office, by the way. It looks like it's was built in the 1600s. It was built like I think in 1910 or something like that. But they built it to look old. I mean, they used the neoclassical architecture, and right behind it is the headquarters for the Bank of Banco Nacional. So I mentioned the Jade Museum. This is a scene from the Jade Museum. When you walk into the rooms in the Jade Museum, you're walking into you're walking back 2,000 years, you know, and it's just amazing. You walk into these villages, or you walk into this guy hunting or fishing, and it's absolutely amazing. It's not just artifacts under glass. I mean, it's a lot more than that. It really helps you understand what life was like then. Oh, well, there's a guy having a cup of coffee here, but anyway, I want to just kind of leave you with these thoughts here, because as you wander around Costa Rica, you are going to find that you're going to meet expats who will tell you, and I'm talking about Canadians and Americans and some Europeans, but you'll find these expats who say, "We never go to downtown San Jose. We don't go there because it's dirty and it's noisy and it's a big city and it's crowded and it has graffiti and it has crime and it has homelessness." And they're absolutely right. It has all those things. It's a big city. It's got 2 million people when you count all the suburbs and so on. And quite frankly, San Jose is not a beautiful city. It does not have a stunning oceanfront skyline like Miami Beach or like Rio de Janeiro. It doesn't have a cute a colonial center like Cartagena, Colombia does. But people who completely write off downtown San Jose, I think they're shortchanging themselves. Now, I understand if you're visiting Costa Rica for a short vacation, you might want to be on the beach, or you might want to take advantage of the rainforest or the volcanoes, or perhaps you might want to visit a coffee plantation, or maybe you want to go ziplining or bird watching, or if you're braver than I am, you can kayak down a river, but I'm not going to do that anymore. And for some reason, there are people who want to go on crocodile tours. I don't know why, but they do. Now, I live in downtown San Jose. I'm a single guy, and it works for me. I know that's not for everybody, but if you really want to learn about Costa Rica and about the amazing people who live here, San Jose deserves your attention too. No matter where you decide to visit or where you decide to live in Costa Rica, the time that you spend in downtown San Jose will help you to understand why this country is so different and so exceptional. Now, just think about this. A country that consciously decided to eliminate its military, then imagine that they consciously decided to take the money that they would have spent on the military and spend it on education instead. And they did this in the 1940s. I mean, think about the effects that this one single decision has made for this country. Costa Rica now has the highest literacy and the highest level of education of any country in this part of the world. They have the most extraordinary, I was going to say, most of the extraordinary history that made this happen took place here in downtown San Jose. And I just think that this is a remarkable country, and San Jose is the heart and soul of this country, and it's reason enough to be. I understand if you don't want to live in downtown, but you need to spend time in downtown. And by the way, there's something else too. I mentioned that this was the retail hub of the city, of the country. If you're on a nice little beach town, and you're looking to get your computer repaired, you're going to have to come into San Jose. I mean, if you're looking to buy a new cell phone, you're probably going to want to come into San Jose. I mean, there's just a lot of things that are available here that are they're just not available at a little beach town. So do yourself a favor. Spend some time in San Jose. You will learn volumes about Costa Rica and about its wonderful people. Pura vida.
Thank you.